So 25 years ago, actually it'll be 25 years next year, believe it or not. But 25 years ago, in next year, some would even look at it as 25 years this year, depending on how they view anniversaries. Some people will look at the event happening that year and say that's just the first year, and then go on and so forth, if you know what I mean. But next year, for a lot of us fans, will mark 25 years since Endgame was published by Archie Comics. And sorry about that, no spit came out. And for a lot of us, it was a shocking event. There's no doubt about that. In fact, I think all of us remember where we were. And I know that saying gets used a lot, but I think a lot of us do remember where we were when the issue got published. The first issue of this 4-part event series. I mean, I remember basically I was in this vocational program in 1997. I was just going into my senior year, if you will. I was just going into my senior year. And I think I'd done this the year prior as well. Yeah, I think I did do it the year prior as well. To kind of, basically, the vocational program I went into was a program that allowed students, both boys and girls, to kind of get an idea of what it was going to be like as soon as they got out of high school. So I did it for my sophomore year, I did it going into my junior year, and I did it going into my senior year, I believe. But again, long story short, I remember being part of this program in 1997, and that's when I basically found out about the story arc. And I remember getting the issues because one of the things we would do during this, in this vocational program for the 2 weeks we were part of it, was we would go, during the weekends, we would go on trips. We'd go see movies, we'd go to parks, whatever you want to call it, we would do it. So I remember basically we went to a shopping center and went to a gas station, and these were the places where I ended up finding some of the issues. Or these were some of the places anyway. And I only found the issue 47, 49, and 50. I couldn't find 48. I got that about a year or so later, a few months later, I think. But long story short, I remember, reading the first of this 4-part story, and just like anybody else, being in shock about what was about what had happened, because like a lot of people, I thought they had killed off Sally. So again, I didn't have 48 at that time, so I read 49, kind of missing a piece of the puzzle at that time, if you will. But I kind of got a good idea because they did a recap. They did a recap of what happened. So I kind of got caught up to what was going on. And I read that issue, and then I read 50, and as soon as I read 50, I was like, oh, thank God, nothing bad, nothing bad has happened. We see that Sally had survived her death, if you will. Even though they threw in clues and hints at the fact that, yeah, she was dead. She was, pretty much history. But as explained in issue 50, Dr. Quack, who is another Ken Penders character, who is a Ken Penders character, I should say, and I'll get into that in a moment, basically made it look, basically he had to make it look like Sally had died to throw Robotnik off. But in fact, all it was is that she ended up in a coma, so they put her into this stasis chamber, which looked like a see-through coffin made up as a memorial, so that she could heal. And in traditional fairy tales, Snow White, Cinderella, Sleeping Beauty, I should say, happy endings, if you will, Sonic ends up kissing her and she wakes up. So yeah, it was it was kind of a trip, if you will. And then of course, like I said, I got 48 later on, and it filled in the gap. And then of course they did several backup stories, like the one with Bunny and Antoine, to explain how they went from being, going to the down under, being sent to the down under prison camp and escaping and getting back to, Robotropolis and all that. They did backup stories on that. They did the director's cut and one of the super specials, which brought it all together. But the obvious question anybody has had, but what I'm trying to say is the obvious question anybody had at that time, and this is what happens when you do things unscripted, and even to this day, is why was Endgame created? Why was Endgame made into a 4-part miniseries, if you will? Why was it made into a series that basically, tried to kill off a character only to have her brought back? Well, according to Ken Penders, who wrote the story, he thought that the comic was coming to an end. He felt that the comic was, was over, that they had done everything they could, and he had this belief that a lot of comics that were based on franchises, adaptations, if you will, based on franchises like video games, toys, or cartoons, didn't last beyond 25 or 50 issues. So he figured it was over. But sales proved him wrong, and Sega and Archie said, nope, we're continuing it. So he had to start writing some new stories beyond issue 50. And then, of course, I think that's when they decided to bring in some other writers like Cole Bowlers and such to help him out. But yeah, that's why, ENDGAME was created. ENDGAME was created because, Ken Penders thought that the comic had come to an end. He even explained this in various interviews that he had done, as well as the one he did at Midnight's Edge, or with Midnight's Edge last year. He basically felt that the comic had run its course. He felt that the comic was probably going to come to an end, and that's why he went in the direction and tried to kill off Sally and tried to do this and that, tried to, basically did the big final climactic battle between Sonic and Robotnik. He did all this because he felt that, the comic had run its course and it was coming to an end. And, again, he was proven wrong about that because the sales came in and Sega and Archie's like, yeah, Ken, we're not going to go that route anymore. Instead, we're going to continue it and we need you to write more stories. And to me, that's why they brought in the likes of Carl Bowlers, and amongst others. And, it's kind of strange when you really think about it, guys. It's really kind of strange when you look back on that story arc and you see that it went beyond, issue 50, the comic that is. The question is, the question obviously you always have is, why did he even consider writing that story why did Archie and Sega, allow him to publish that story or write that story to get it published if they knew the comic was going to continue? Why did they do it? Well, because I think, from my opinion, my point of view opinion, I think at the time, the sales numbers didn't come in as quickly as they do nowadays. And because those sales numbers didn't come in so quickly, they considered possibly that this could be it. Or at least Ken Penders, I should say, is someone along with the people that worked with him could consider that this could be it. Like, they didn't know exactly where the numbers were, so they figured, well, if we don't know where the numbers are, the sales numbers that is, we might as well just end the book right here and now. But when those sales numbers came in, like I said, it was like, nope, this comic's going to continue, and it's going to continue for a long, long time. Well, at least for another 241 issues, that is. But yeah, it was kind of a strange beast, if you will. Especially with the fact that when you look who he tried to kill off permanently. I mean, he said basically in various interviews, and I think he said, like I said in his interview with Midnight's Edge, that, the king had come back into power, so there was no need for Sally to be, running the kingdom anymore, being in the position she was. So what do you do with her? You kill her off. If you're going to have a finale like this, you need to have a major death in there besides maybe the villain. And the obvious choice to him was Sally. But again, it makes you wonder, you have Sega telling him they want a Sally miniseries, or a Sally story arc in a miniseries, because they want to go in this direction to, make Sally basically like the Minnie Mouse, the Lola Bunny, if you will, to Sonic's Mickey or Sonic's Bugs, to appeal to the female demographic. You have Sega wanting him to do all this and everything, and yet you have Ken Penders deciding he's going to take that very same character and kill her off because he doesn't think the comic's going to last beyond 50 issues, and yet he gets proven wrong. And at the same time, I think somebody probably alluded to him, yeah, Sally is a popular character because they have her as a main character in a stage show down in Sonic in Sydney, Australia, one of the Sega indoor theme parks. So, yeah, you have to wonder, why was Sally given a miniseries? Why did Ken put so much effort into it, work with what Sega allowed him to work with, and then decide I'm going to kill off Sally? It just made basically no sense in my opinion, that if you're going to go through all that trouble. You shouldn't go through all that trouble just so you can kill the character off. It doesn't make sense. It's like, you know, Superman. Everybody was upset that Superman got killed off by Doomsday, right, initially? Why would you have Superman? Let's say, for example, let's say instead of Superman, you have Supergirl, okay? You have Supergirl. Why would you put, and this didn't happen, but let's say Supergirl was in his place instead. Why would you put Supergirl, put so much effort into Supergirl, give her a miniseries and everything like Sally got, you know, promote her as being on the same level as Superman and all that, you know, making her the Minnie Mouse, the Lola Bunny for the girls, the female demographic to, you know, flaunt toward or be driven towards to get interested in the DC Comics. You know, why would you put her through all this then kill her off? It didn't make sense. It did not make sense. And in a way, that's kind of how you look at with the whole thing with Sally. It's like, why go through all that trouble with her to kill her off? Didn't make sense. So, honestly, when you look back at Endgame, going on 25 years next year, or 25 years for some fans to this year, it's an interesting beast. It's an interesting time in the Sonic comic, and I think it's one that we'll never forget, because it's one of those kind of comic book events that you remember, like I said earlier, where you were when it happened. But let me know what your thoughts are. How did you feel about Endgame when it came out? Where were you? Do you remember where you were when it happened? When you first started reading the issues for this? Where were you? What were your thoughts of it initially? And how do you feel looking back on it and knowing that it was all for naught, basically? What are your thoughts? Let me know how you feel in the comments down below, in the live chat during the premiere. Like the video, and I'm out.